Hi, I'm going to be going over the orderIT system for November the 25th, 2020. We've had 12 trades that were identified, 7 were buys, 5 were short sells. I'm going to go through each one to determine possibility. HA, Hawaiian Holdings Incorporated. It was tripped at 12/20/03 at a price of $21.17. It was a buy trade. It closed at $21.82, so it was down. It was, though, up from previous day by 0.10%, so it looks like it was somewhat moving upwards. We can see from the trade activity itself that at 12, which would have been roughly around this area, 21.17, 21.21, 21.24. I consider this a positive trade because there are points during the day it actually rised above the indication price multiple times, so to me that's positive. But again, it would require the monitoring of the trade to get out, obviously, when possible. I say that there, and probably one of the techniques that I follow is to use stop limit based trade activity, basically closing operations to get out of the trade when it's safe for stocks like this. Obviously you can trip it so that the stop trade at least gets out when it starts to come down, but at least keep it above the point in time. So those are techniques you can use, obviously, to make sure that you end the day positive, even though the stock itself, as you can see, this one here ended up moving down at the end of the day, which OBV is again showing, yes, it was moving up for the most part, for most of the day, and at the end of the day it actually reverted. MACD actually is showing, well, MACD was showing more negative than positive, so that's very interesting. DI bouncing back and forth, so not positive. Bollinger Band, though, was showing that it was moving up, so even though the indicators, the two middle indicators are not showing strong positive, Bollinger Band showing that it was moving up on a fairly regular basis. So interesting stock. Next stock is BEN, Franklin Resources Incorporated. It tripped at 12/20/06 at a price of $12.29. It was tripped as a sell. It closed at 22.32. So it closed above its indication price. It was down, though, for the day of 0.22%. We'll see if there's a point where you can identify getting out. So it tripped at 12.20, so roughly around here. So you can see, yeah. I just happened to be at the end of the day, it came up, but you can see most of the afternoon it was down below the tripping price, so that's a positive trade. Again, maybe using activity like stop order kind of trading would at least been able to use as a basis to get out of the trade while it was positive in the aspect of making money off of it. OBV sideways in the morning till early afternoon, down in the afternoon, a bit of a reversal. So OBV not really showing strongly. It was showing strongly negative in the afternoon, but for the most part it's not. MACD is showing somewhat negative, not strong negative in the afternoon, and it did reverse and come back at the end of the day. DI showing mostly negative. And interestingly, it actually is showing that, no, it's showing that it came back at the end of the day too. Bollinger Band showing the same thing. So again, a stock you would have had to monitor to get out, but there were points where you could have reversed it or gotten out of the stock when it was down. Next trade is DPW Holdings. It tripped at 1:30 p.m. at a price of $6.98. It was a buy trade. It actually closed at $6.69. That was up 6.02%, so it was up a good amount. and 130. So roughly around here, and it does not look like it recovered. It looked like it tripped right at the high point at that point in time. It wasn't a high point of the day, but high point at that time in the afternoon. But didn't come above it, so let's just check. On the wrong day, so sell the first one, okay, second one, okay, third one, showing somewhat good movement in the morning and basically sideways in the afternoon, bouncing back and forth a bit on OBV. MACD again showing that it tripped in the morning, early afternoon, and basically somewhat was turning downwards from afternoon time. So MACD is not showing strongly negative for most of the afternoon. DI showing the same thing, tripped in the morning, was positive a bit till the early afternoon, then came down negative. Bollinger Band showing basically sideways. I'll mark this as a potential possible because it's moving fairly consistently sideways in the afternoon, but nothing pushing it above, and the price of it was a good price above previous close, so I consider that a good possible trade. Next trade is BCOV, Bright Cove Incorporated. It tripped at 130.17 at a price of 15.32. It was tripped as a buy, and it closed at 15.38. It was up 2.19, or excuse me, it was up 16.66%, so it was up a good amount. It did close a bit above, so that's good, so that's a positive. And we'll check to see if the analysis is going to show it strongly. Moving positive. So it tripped at 13.30 again. As you can see, OBV showing somewhat very good positive movements. In the afternoon, it's somewhat moving sideways, but again, early morning definitely was moving up. MACD, though, is actually showing that it was somewhat moving downwards. So OBV showing strongly that it was moving, but MACD is actually showing that it's moving as much negative as it is positive. It just happened to trip. The trip on MACD is not strongly apparent. DI, though, showing very much positive for most of the day. It did revert at the end of the day. Bollinger Band, you can't really see anything. It does make it look like it was moving sideways, but again, the end price was above its tripping price, so that's a positive. IDEX, Idenomics, I'm going to pronounce it that way. At 150.05, it was tripped at 278, and it was a buy trade. It actually closed at 271. It was actually down almost 14%. So it just happened to be that it was tripped roughly around here when it was coming up, and it does. You can see here. 281, 270. Okay, there was a good hour of it where it was up above its tripping, even though you can see, it was not moving strongly positive. It was still positive because after its tripping price, there was still points where it was above its tripping price. So not 100% obviously a safe trade. But again, you could have got out when it was above its tripping price. We'll check to see, again, OBV in the afternoon. You could show why it tripped in the afternoon, because OBV is showing that it came up in the afternoon. MACD is showing the same thing. It was actually early and mid-afternoon it came up. The rest of the day it was down. DI actually was showing a good portion from, well, actually no, DI showing morning and afternoon. It was positive. I'm looking for positive. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. From early afternoon till mid-afternoon, it was positive and then negative for the rest of that time. But the DI was actually showing a good amount positive. Bollinger Band showing that it was bouncing back and forth again. It tripped around this area, but there was periods of time where you could have got out positively. So again, positive trade. Next trade is KSS, Coles Corporation. It tripped at 205.03 at a price of 33.34. It was actually indicated as a short sell. It closed at 33.45. It was down 0.12%, so price-wise it was going downwards from previous close. And we could see at the time, which is around this point, but we can see, yeah, we can see here. And it came up. There's a good point. There's a good hour of time here that it was down below its close, even though it was actually moving upwards a bit during that time. It was still down during the day from its tripping price. So I'll consider that a positive just because the price did fall below its tripping price. The price did go below the tripping price. OBV both showing bouncing back and forth, but it was, bouncing back and forth. MACD showing that, for most of the afternoon it was down, and then mid-afternoon mid-afternoon it was up. Again, you can see it was coming down again by the end of the day, so it was reversing again by the end of the day. DI bouncing back and forth, so again, not consistently, but you can see in the day it was moving down. And Bollinger Band actually, yeah, it was moving down for most of the afternoon, came up in mid-afternoon, but then reverted. So it technically is a positive trade because it did come down below, and the indicator is showing that it was moving down in general. Next stock is BTG. That's BT Gold Corporation. It tripped up 221.38 at a price of 5.33. It was a buy trade. It closed the day at 5.31, so it was just below its tripping price, and it was up 0.38%. So it was technically moving up before, based on previous close. And we'll just check to see 221. See there, it was 5.32, and then it came down. It did come up here, 5.32. There was a point where at the end of the day it was tripped as a positive. You get out at the end of the day because it came up above its close. Came up above its tripping price for not a very long period of time, so that would have been a very, very tricky trade. We'll see. OBV bouncing back and forth, that's not strong. MACD is not strongly, again showing afternoon, mid-afternoon period time was moving up, but not strongly. End of the day it was moving up again, MACD wise. DI showing down in the morning, earning up in the afternoon, and recovery at the end of the day. Bollinger Band, you can see it was coming down and then reverting. I'll put this as a possible because the indicator's not strongly moving in a positive direction. Bollinger Band shows that it was moving upwards afternoon, though it was down though in the morning time. So that would be a tricky trade in general because of aspect. The one saving grace of this stock is that it was up. Well, actually, it was only up a small percentage. So the increase percentage-wise is not that much either. So I'll put that as a possible. Next trade is CSIQ. That's Canadian Solar Incorporated. It tripped at 221.55 at a price of 43.19. It was a buy. It closed at 42.90, so below its tripping price, but you can see it was up 5.61%, so it was up a good amount. And it tripped at 221, so it tripped around this area. You can see it came up there. It was up there, up. There's a good portion of time in the middle to late afternoon that it was up. You can see at the end of the day it did come down below, obviously, the tripping price, but I consider that still a positive trade because there was a good period of time that it was up above its trip price. That's the end of that sheet. Excuse me. Okay. Yes, OBD. You can see the afternoon is where it came up. A little bit of a reversal at the end of the day, but it's still OBB-wise coming up. MACD, not strongly. It was moving up, you know, here and there. MACD somewhat bouncing back and forth. Yeah, it's actually showing that it, well, no, yeah, it was showing a negative downward trend at the end of the day. DI showing a good amount that it was moving positive, so DI showing that it was moving in a positive direction for a good portion of the day. It was in the afternoon moving up a fair amount, so afternoon it showed a good positive movement on DI. Bollinger Band showing it somewhat consistently rise for most of the day, so it's up. So the indicators themselves, while not strong, were showing a positive direction. Next trade is BLNK, Blink Charging Company. It tripped at 230.01. It tripped as a short sell. It did close the day at 25.28, so it closed above its tripping price, but it was down 10.10%. So this stock was down overall for the day. It tripped at 230, so it tripped around here. And never came back. We'll see if the indicators are showing anything differently. Yeah, you can see the afternoon is where it came down, which is where it also tripped. MACD is showing somewhat a negative movement for most of the afternoon downwards. You can see it made a bit of a recovery in the afternoon, but late afternoon sideways. DI showing you afternoon it was making a downwards trend, but you can see it was making a strong recovery at the end of the day. Bollinger Band is showing that, yeah, from late morning to early afternoon it was actually just moving downwards. So price-wise, and the Bollinger Band indications showing that it was moving down strongly. While it did come up above its tripping price, I consider that a good, strong, possible trade. As you can see, it was down a good amount from its previous close, so in general, it was a down stock. Next trade is BDX, Becton Dickinson and Company. It tripped at 233.17 at a price of 227.19. It was a short sell. It closed at 227.47, so above the tripping price, but it was down for the day, not by much, 0.79%. It tripped at 233, so tripped around this area, and you can see that it was, and you can see there's a good portion of the afternoon it was down, so I consider it a positive trade, even though it ended the day above its tripping price. There were still potential points in the day where it was down. OBV just showing it just dropping. So OBV showing that this stock is moving downwards, volume-wise, obviously. MACD actually was showing that it was moving positive in the morning till early afternoon, and then moving somewhat negative. But actually, a good portion of the afternoon was moving positive too. So afternoon negative a bit, but it was recovering at the end of the day MACD wise. Even though, yeah, DI is actually showing a bit differently than that. DI is showing somewhat a more negative movement than positive, so DI is that way. And you see Bollinger Band down in the morning, up a little bit in the afternoon, and down again in late afternoon. So to me, that's still considered a positive trade, and the indicators are showing that it was moving downwards on a somewhat regular basis. Next trade is HTBX, Heat Biologics. It tripped at 3 p.m. It tripped at a price of 109. It was a buy trade. It closed at 110, and it was up 15.79%. So it definitely is a positive trade. We'll check to see if the indicators are showing it moving strongly in that direction. OBV, no, OBV is somewhat a little bit bouncy, but for a good portion of the day it was moving sideways. MACD looks like it was also moving sideways, but you can see in the days where it tripped, where it came up. DI showing it was up actually most of the day, even though at the end of the day it was making a bit of a reversal. And Bollinger Band again showed that it moved up and came down. So indicators are showing that it was moving positive, but not absolutely easy to see 100%, but moving positive. Next trade is FUV, and that's Archimoto Incorporated. It tripped at 350.02 right at the end of the day at a price of $13.85. It was a short sell, and it tripped or closed at $13.87, so it closed above. It was down though a good amount, 3.21%, and you can see right at the end of the day, yeah, there was a period of time that was down, but because it was the end of the day, that's a very, complicated stock. Look at this, OBD showing it down, DI showing it down, MACD showing it down, DI actually bouncing back and forth, even though end of the day it was showing it was down negative, and Bollinger Band showing moving down. To me, there wasn't enough time to really, 10 minutes at the end of the day to check. Interesting. It looks like it made a bit of a recovery during that time. I'll put it as a possible because it just, at the end of the day, it just wasn't 100%. So that gives us a percentage-wise of 8 trades out of 12. So 8 divided by 12, 66%. Again, not heavily, up in the upper side, but again, still above 50%. And again, there's actually 4 possible trades, no negative trades, so technically you consider them possible. With the positive trades, that's actually 100%. It's just the aspect of the possibles not showing strong movement and not rising above its indication or tripping price, which, would have meant that you would have had to wait at the day after to close these trades up to make a positive trade on those possibles. So overall, it was actually a good day, even though not 100% positive. It was still overall a good day. I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much.